Up and out.
All right, the audio seems to be good. Are you recording? I missed it.
Recording,
Okay.
yes.
Tell your friends you're listening to the Verhoeven Effect podcast. I'm Conlon.
And I'm Nathan.
We have another very special movie. We have the 2009 movie District 9. Nathan, do you have a history of District 9?
I remember seeing it on TV. I know it had a pretty cool advertising campaign, and I think it had some computer stuff you could go to. Because I didn't know, you just had no idea what it was.
Yeah.
At first, it's like there's a lot of secrets in District 9. It's like, huh? Okay, well, this is weird. And I don't know anyone who's in it, so that's
Oh,
interesting.
you know one person. Well, not at the time. Not at the
Not
time.
at the time. No, at the time I had no idea who any of these people were. It was just Peter Jackson who was affiliated with him.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I think I saw this in the theaters. As a
Well,
matter of fact, I know I did. Yeah.
well, I was gonna say it's important to the podcast because this is the first time we did a podcast together. Is after we saw this movie,
Yeah.
which I'm pretty sure is true. And then I looked up in our records, and I can't find the podcast at all. Like I don't know if I just didn't put it in the name, or if it's hidden somewhere, or maybe it's like one of the weirdos and warriors that got lost to the ether or something like that.
Yeah, that could be because some of our first podcasts were weird because we thought like 10-minute musical intros were cool and stuff. We were doing weird stuff like that.
Yeah.
Who knows?
So yeah, that's how I remembered it. So, but yeah, I guess because I remember we like high fived to like prove that like yeah we're in the same room together, which I guess wasn't important. That's like important if you have like an audience, but you know whatever.
I do remember that.
So yeah, it came out August 14th, 2009. So of course, that usually means it's a movie that like, they have no idea whether it'll do good or not.
Yeah.
Which I think that was the same date they released Elysium, which was like his next movie. Well, yeah, was that his? Yeah, it was. I think it was his next movie.
I believe so.
Which is another like, yeah, I don't know. It's yeah, this is directed by Neil Blomkamp, who like, I feel like he got really huge with this movie, and then he should have been a huge director, but kind of everything he's done since has just kind of been middling, at least for the box office. Everything he does looks cool.
Yeah, I like the Neil Blomkamp style.
Yeah.
Don't necessarily like the storytelling. Like Elysium really looked, it had like a lot of things going for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, this really looks cool. I like the retro AK-47s with where they're like the bullets are now explosive tip missiles, and it's like that's cool. But the whole story just didn't resonate.
Yeah.
And they had good actors and a big budget, and it's like, why didn't this work? And it's like I just don't think it was fleshed out very well.
Yeah.
And then after that, we had Chappie, which
I
was
never saw it because I heard embarrassing things about it, but I think people think it's okay now. So I don't know.
it's all right. It's not bad. I wouldn't want to sit in the theater and watch it.
I know people really liked was it Oates or what is it like his like
Yes.
short film series.
Yeah, his Oates. There's an Oates thing that's on YouTube. It's called Firebase. It's like that should have been maybe not a movie, but a TV series.
Yeah,
That's the one about like it's Vietnam alternate universe with magic and rage and dimensions all coming together in one thing, and it has that real, I don't know, what do you call that, Neil Blomkamp style of organic guts and technology horror that
yeah.
is like come because I know some people say body horror, but with him, when I think body horror, I think more the guy from Canada, Cronenberg. With Neil Blomkamp, I think guts and machinery, like that's kind of his world. But yeah, he never really because what was the deal? Like this was supposed to be the Halo movie that Peter Jackson was behind, but that fell through because of funding. And then they're like, let's make this.
Yeah. Well, I remember thinking like what, because I remember like around this time the Halo 3 movie came out and they had these live action commercials for it, and I was like, why don't they just get that guy to direct the Halo movie? And guess who that was? That was Neil Blomkamp who directed those. So it's like, oh yeah, they went out and got that guy, and then yeah, the production fell through because video game movies at the time weren't lucrative, but now they can leverage it. Where like at least now people can think like there's a possibility of a video game movie being good, even though you have the recency bias as the Borderlands movie being bad. But but now it's also another thing, like if you just make a movie, then your video game will sell again. It's like a new life on your video game you already released. Or you can do a remake, or you can do a sequel and just release it at the same time. It's just synergy, cross synergy. It's like, let's, because I remember like after that was like the Witcher games were like huge selling games, but
Yeah.
the bulk of their sales actually came after the Witcher series premiered, which is funny because like those would be they're supposed to be very distinct things because the writer never got any money from the video games, but they made sure he got money for the TV series.
Yeah. Which is weird, but okay. At least he did get paid
I mean,
eventually.
it was a self-owned goal, or however you say that, self-owned or own goal, because like he said, who like video games are going to make money based on books? Fuck that. It's like, here, give me 15 grand and you can have the rights to my thing. They're like, okay, sure. And then it makes billions of dollars. He's like, wait a minute. You took my baby. It's like, no, we didn't. We just took something you made and made it popular.
I think everyone ended up getting paid though.
Yeah. I mean, I think they made some back end deals, or they just sued, or he just sued him or whatever. But
Yeah.
I don't know, like, but again, like once the video game takes off, like didn't he get any book sales from that? I imagine that had to like make those rise as well. But
Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, it's like I'm sure money was made.
um, but
See,
yeah, he was supposed to do.
Camp also. Let's see, what else did he do? He did Chappie, which I watched once. It wasn't horrible. And then they Demonic, which was like a VR game about demons.
Okay.
And it was one of those weird COVID movies where it
Oh,
was
okay.
very dissociated and everyone gave it a break. And then you watch it now and you're like, no, it's just a bad movie. And then Gran Turismo, which I never.
Oh, right, yeah. I hear
But
people like. I mean, for as stupid as the premise is, I hear people like it, so it's probably a fine movie. So
yeah, probably it looks cool.
yeah, yeah. That's the thing with him. He's like, all his movies look good, and there's always like, because I don't know, it's different. It's different because like Michael Bay movies always look good, but there's always like a sense of like stupidity behind everything that's done in the movie. Where I
Yeah.
feel like with Neil Blomkamp, there's always something smart on the edge that they never take advantage of.
Yeah.
Whereas like Nolan's the complete opposite. It's like it's all smart, and we're hovering on the edge of stupidity.
It's too smart for its own good.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, even if you look at Elysium just looked like, oh, this was, because that's what I thought. I thought Elysium was the movie that was made out of the failed Halo production, because so many things from Elysium look like they just come straight out of a Halo movie. Like I even think the Pelican is straight up in Elysium, like something
Yeah.
that's just very much like it.
Well, the weapons from District 9 and Elysium were all just Halo props.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
What a workshop made. And they're like, just make them, because they were supposed to be like, who was the eight bad guys? The Covenant. Didn't they have just guns that looked like Nerf guns and stuff?
Yeah.
But they were energy weapons that would kill people. Yeah.
For crystals that would explode and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the plasma weapons, which they have that stuff here. Yeah. I mean, you can definitely see like, oh, this is where it came from. Halo. And then then they have the Halo TV series, but they just canceled. So,
Yeah, I watched like a couple episodes of that from season 1, and then I had to really downsize my streaming services because I couldn't pay $300 a month just to have streaming services. So I kind of, like, a lot of stuff has fallen by the wayside, not because I didn't want to watch it, but because I had to make choices. And it's like,
season 1, I thought the start of it was fine. Then it got really stupid. Season 2 kind of crawled some of that back where it was more even keel, and there's some great things in season 2 as well. And then it just ends with them ending up at Halo, like Halo, and they have Guilty Spark, like talking to the chief at the end of it. And it's like, all right, well, too bad you're not getting another one. So
yeah, this is it. Enjoy it.
I mean, I think that was like one of the most expensive TV shows like ever made, or something like that.
I think it was until the Acolyte came along.
Oh yeah.
Someone said like the cost of that per minute, and I was like, what? It's like, yeah, it was super expensive.
Well, also I didn't realize they were like half-hour episodes, so it's like that's what really ups the cost per episode. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I didn't bother to watch that, and they're like, "Oh, it's canceled." It's like, "Oh, okay." I'm like, so,
Yeah,
I just watched the red. That's why I was just go right to Red Letter Media. It's like I'm gonna let them explain something I never want to watch, then I'll be more entertained by it. So,
I might actually watch it because of them. But
which I probably should have watched that season 3 of Picard because I was so like season 1 was so stupid I never bothered with the rest of them.
season 3 is worth seeing. It's
Yeah,
a good farewell.
yeah, I hear, yeah, I
I mean,
hear,
it's not perfect, but there's stuff. Whoever the captain of that ship is really carried a lot of,
yeah.
like, you guys are ridiculous. No one's flushing their career down the toilet based on your memories. You guys are absolutely out of your minds. We're not doing this. No one does this. Shouldn't have done it then. We're not doing it now. And it's like, yeah, that guy, they shouldn't have killed that character off.
Oh yeah, the really shitty Starfleet captain who you think is going to be the bad guy around, but he's just really honest and doesn't want his people to die because of stupid decisions.
Yeah, and he's actually really good at his job too. He just doesn't get along with people that want to act what he considers irrational. And he's like, he actually makes the most sense of any Starfleet character I've ever seen. Is like, this is actually a guy. And then you find out it's like, oh yeah, like you killed everyone I was on a ship with at with the Borg War, because your name's actually Locutus, and that's all I'm going to associate with you as, because you killed everyone I cared about. So I don't really care about Captain Picard, because Captain Picard's a traitor as far as I'm concerned. Got the blood on my hands to prove. I don't know if he said that, but stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, this guy actually makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, the Red Letter Media guys compared that captain to the captain that. Remember the one captain that came in for like a day and like he had his different methods and stuff like that, and he just seemed like
Captain Jellicoe,
yes.
Yeah, played by the Heavy and RoboCop.
Oh yes. Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah. Sometimes it feels like Neil Blomkamp is like defined by his movies that didn't get made, which I know it's like the Halo movie didn't get made, and then like Elysium and District 9 are very Halo influenced. But then he was working on a Alien movie, and then that got shut down. Which everything about that seemed awesome, and then
that actually seemed like, well, this is the sequel we actually wanted. It's like you nailed it,
And I think even like I think Sigourney Weaver worked with him on like his oat stuff project, so like she was on board, I think, with that.
Yeah, she was. That's why she did some oat stuff, because they bypassed that and greenlit. They wanted to do the continuing Ridley Scott universe.
Yeah,
because the Neil Blomkamp Alien came up like after Covenant, where everyone was kind of like, whoa, let's tap the brakes here. Maybe we want to go in a different direction. And of course they didn't. But yeah, so that should still get made.
Now they have Romulus, which I think is doing very well and it's well received.
Yeah,
I mean it's not like it's breaking like new ground in the Alien franchise. It just used the Alien franchise well for what the characters.
Well, they're maintaining interest and kind of bridging the stories together, because I know like they're trying to align that universe in a way that makes sense now.
Well, and they got the Fargo people. They just had the teaser release for the Alien TV show, so that's a go. So
yeah,
that's coming out next year. So
that could really do it. I'm definitely I might have to activate a streaming service to see that.
But you have cable, right? So you have FX, right? So you can see it.
Yeah, no, I could probably watch that, because I watched Fargo on demand. So
the cinematographer is Trent Opalak. Who like he must have got in new, but like he is actually a pretty influential, because after District 9 is his first big movie. I think he does some Canadian movie and does even Elysium as well. And then there's Captain America and the Winter Soldier, which is my favorite Marvel movie, because it's basically like, hey, what if Marvel did the Tom Clancy universe?
Yeah, exactly.
Then he did Chappie, then he did Captain America Civil War, then he did both Infinity War and Endgame, which is like basically the end of movies.
Yeah. He did the back-to-back Russo brothers.
Yeah, which those guys are interesting, because I knew those guys because they made like they did the paintball episodes on the show Community. I don't know if you ever saw those.
No.
But they're a great, like, basically like low budget versions of like Die Hard, but with paintball guns and over dramaticism with it and stuff like that, and like the school turns into chaos. And so you just watch those episodes and be like, yeah, I think these guys could direct an action movie. And they're like, well, what if we gave them the Marvel franchise? um, they've been pretty missed lately, but oh
Well, the Electric State is coming along.
well.
Be here eventually.
That's a movie, right? That's not a series, right?
Um,
Because it's got like Chris Pratt in it, so I imagine it's a movie and not a series. But he
yeah,
does
it's
series.
described as a film, but it's
Okay.
going to come out on Netflix next year in March.
Okay.
But it's been like we've been hearing about it forever.
Yeah, but we got what was the one previously? But you said that's like the cure for insomnia,
Oh, the
Amazon show.
yeah, the Amazon show,
Was it In the Loop or what's the loop?
Tales from the Loop.
Tales from the Loop. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, no, it was like it was very ambitious. It was very cool, and I think it captured kind of the spirit of that. But it just became, it was so the story was like swimming through molasses. And sometimes I have a lot of patience for that, but then sometimes I don't, and it just becomes torture. And it kind of crossed the line into torture, which was too bad because it looked cool. I mean, they captured the look, like it really looked cool, but so yeah, and the Electric State's probably, I don't know, that's probably the darkest thing Simon Stallhog's done. So well, I mean the
Hey, give him time.
Labyrinth is pretty dark too because that's like post-apocalyptic. But,
I don't think I've seen that. But
yeah, well, he's doing there's a Kickstarter for there's another one coming out too.
Okay.
I'm gonna have to get back on board with I need more of those coffee table books to take up space in here.
Have you ever got to show one of those off to random people? And they're like, "What's this?" And you're like, "Here."
I took it to the model club meeting once.
Oh,
I said,
okay.
"You know where my color schemes come from for some of my robots and tanks? Like this is it."
Huh.
I do that orange with white, like counter shadows paint and stuff.
Yeah.
Because some people did ask me, like, "Where'd you come up with this? Like, how'd you figure out how to do this?" It's like, "Oh, I just copied someone else." The guy I copied. It's like, "Oh, okay."
Because I thought that was just cool, and I just sent you that book as a gift, and then
Yes.
then you were on board. So.
Yeah, it started a whole thing. It's like, this is amazing because I got things from the flood, then Tales from the Loop, and I don't think I got the Labyrinth. I meant to, but I just never got around to it. Because a lot of things I've just had to downsize because you see my room's just not as full of stuff as it used to be. So I don't have a giant mansion. In case anyone out there in podcast land was wondering, I live in a normal home.
I live in a man. No, all the podcast money. I think Travis Kelce just got like $100 million for his podcast.
Nice.
But that's just because he's
if you can
famous for
talk
other
about
things.
Sports and you play it professionally, and you could probably have like neat friends.
Yeah,
that could show up. Like Brad Pitt's not swinging by to talk about the latest Brad Pitt movie with us.
This is written by Neil Blomkamp and Terry Tatchell, who this is her biggest thing. I don't know what she does, but she doesn't work in films really, or not regularly.
She's married to Neil Blomkamp.
Oh, okay, that makes sense then. Okay.
Yeah. She's from Canada, which is where he's from now, I think.
Yeah, he. So as far as I know, the history, at least there's like competing history things with him. So he from like born in South Africa and then raised there till 16, and then family moved to Vancouver, and that's where he went to film school. Also, I heard like one of the things I heard in the trivia was saying that like Shartel Copley didn't even want to be an actor. He's just like stood out amongst the other people. And I read other trivia said that like Neil Blomkamp and him went to the same school together, and like I guess Copley had like access to computers, which allowed him to like experiment with special effects and stuff like that. Because then Blomkamp goes to film school, and then he comes out of it like getting jobs doing special effects work. So that's like his background is special effects stuff.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Charlton Copley's like 6 years older than Neil Blomkamp, but somehow they
Oh,
met
okay.
somewhere. Because I think Charlton Copley had, and I hope I'm saying his name right. I don't know. That's an unusual name.
I would say Charteau Copley. So, but as far as I know, it's Copley. You can't.
Yeah, yeah, that's
Chartel's weird. That's like you crammed two names together and then like took all the wrong parts from both. So.
yeah, that's like the because what's
I think it's all Dutch stuff. So.
yeah, because it's like South Africa is a combination of like what Dutch and British,
Yeah,
based on
something like
different wars of colonization at
Yeah.
different times. Because I know they're like almost all like bilingual English and what do they call it? They don't call it Dutch, they call it Afrikaans.
Yeah, Afrikaans.
Yeah.
Or Afrikaans. Yeah.
So their names are always like just a few degrees off.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
I get the Dutch thing makes sense because I always the shortcut I either stole this from a comedian or I refined it or made it worse. I don't know, but I always describe the South African accent as like Australian Nazis.
yeah,
where,
that's just Australians. Yeah.
where it's like it's kind of fun for a moment, but then it trends off into Nazism at the end. So.
Yeah.
What
you gonna do now? You know, it's so weird because it's like it's like a Australian accent, but all the pitches are wrong. It's like it's a sharp accent. It's not rounded in any way.
But I guess that's what you get when you have like Africans, Dutch people, and English people all trying to speak English, and that's the combination of it. So, I mean, the official language is Afrikaans, right? Which I don't even know what that is. So,
Yeah, it's just Dutch. Dutch is one of those languages that's almost how'd they say? It's almost a sibling of English. Because you can actually sort of follow along if you pay attention long enough. It's like, wait, I know what they're saying. It's like, wait, why? Well,
because I know German, there's a lot of Dutch that's like, oh, that's just half of it's just German, so I can understand like half the words. And
I think Dutch also has the pronoun efficiency of English, where everything doesn't have a masculine and feminine thing.
Okay.
Where you don't have 2 billion words. Where you know it's like, oh, you got a lot of words in this language. No, those are just all pronouns for something else. It's like, oh, this crap.
Cast is Chartel Copley, David James, who I think plays Christopher, the main alien, or maybe it's Jason
David James plays Kubas Venter.
Okay, yeah.
Psychotic special forces mercenary.
He did other things. He's awesome.
Yeah, I've seen that guy before.
I mean, he's a good villain in this, but he's not a well-written villain.
No,
but he stands out.
He projects menace well, and he's a good foil to Wilkes, who's just kind of like the guy who works at the bank, who's because he's married to the daughter of the guy who runs the company. He gets this job, and everyone resents that about him.
Well, I thought he was basically just like doing. Steve Carell from The Office.
Kind of. I think he was.
Okay. Or I guess at that time you could have competing versions. He was doing, so now I forget the originator of The Office.
Ricky Gervais?
Yeah, the Ricky Gervais Office. So.
Yeah, that could be.
Well, I mean, it just like makes sense with the whole documentary style of it. So, okay, and then so Jason Cope was the actor who played Christopher the alien.
Yeah.
It was weird. I was reading up the trivia on David James because like, what else did he do? And it's like not a whole lot, but he's places. And it said like he had a really conservative family and was part of the separatists and apartheid or whatever. And I guess he was like the first liberal in his family to escape all the evil or something. So
yeah,
but I guess he can really bring the evil to the screen. It's like, oh, I know these people. So,
yeah. Oh yeah, no, the white settler separatists in South Africa, the hardcore guys they were really hardcore people. I mean, they're like, we are conquering a nation.
Yeah.
It's like, it doesn't matter if we're only 10% of the population. We are going to subjugate everyone. And it's like, wow, that's a nutty proposition, man. It's like 90% of the people are out to kill you. Okay, well, good luck with that.
Well, you'll see videos coming out of it where it seems like I'm just a plain farmer, and they're just like mowing down people with weapons. It's like,
Oh yeah,
what
yeah,
the fuck is going on here?
yeah.
And then you're just like, well, clearly the people charging at them are wrong. But then when you go in the history, it's like, well, not necessarily,
No,
but but I can see how it's easy to in that situation. It's like the thousands of people trying to kill you are wrong, and not the and not just your target practice. So.
well, I remember I forget where I read. There's some books I read because there's a proverb from South Africa. It's like really dark. What is it? No hills without sunshine, no valleys without tombstones, or it's something. I'm probably saying it wrong, but I heard someone talking about that quote, and it's like, oh, there's this book you can read. It's in the English language, and it goes back to the 40s and 50s. It goes back to the Boer Wars and all this stuff, and the history of that country is like it's like the Wild West period never ended until like the 80s.
Huh.
It's crazy. It's the stuff that went on there was like it was just small groups of people, everyone just fighting for their lives, and then like the native people, the African people, it's like they fought each other in tribal groups also, and you could pit one group against another and play both sides against the middle. And I forget what books I read, but I read like a bunch of books. It's like, man, it's like again, imagine the wildest Wild West stuff in America, westward expansion, but it went on for 150 years.
But,
It's like,
but everyone had like an illegal FAL.
yeah, oh yeah, it just never stopped. Well, and also South Africa, because they were under sanction for so long because of apartheid, they're like, no, we'll just make our own internal arms industry here.
Yeah.
Hell with everyone. We'll just us and Israel will team up to make nuclear weapons and our own internal arms industry because we're sticking to our thing and they're sticking to their thing, and we are just fighting. We're just hitting the ground fighting and never stopping. The father will pass the gun to his son as he dies, and the horror continues. It's like, wow, okay. That's why there's so many South Africans in America now. I think they just decided, like, no, we're done.
I mean, it's the most prosperous nation in Africa, right?
It was, yeah, I believe dollar for dollar, it still is.
Okay.
I know, like, Nigeria is like just becoming like
They finally taking over their own mineral rights and mining stuff and getting
it's
money on it.
just so gigantic. It's like the Brazil of Africa.
Yeah.
It's like because it's like China, India, the United States, three most populous countries in the world, Nigeria. Like, whoa, didn't see that one come. Number 4, almost 100 million people. Like, wow.
Well, yeah, because of the old Mercator projection, Africa is always presented a lot smaller than what it is. Like, Africa is fucking huge.
It's gigantic. It's enormous, unbelievably huge, and cool. They have weird in like animal life there, like just crazy stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's all
Like
different.
200 different kinds of deer.
Kinds.
We have one kind of deer.
Yeah.
They have deer that are as big as chihuahuas. Crazy stuff. They're called dicks. They're
Well, it's like you got like Egypt on one side, and you got like mountainous and Kenya and stuff like that. So it's like basically like living in like Africa's like Colorado, and then
yeah.
and then you get down to South Africa and just all different kinds of stuff. Like it's basically like America, but like if you turned it so that California was against Canada.
Yeah, it's wild. And then like places like Ethiopia, I'm doing weird Bible stuff again, where it's like I want an Ethiopian Bible of course in English, because like there were people that fled like when Christianity had to expand it out of the Middle East. Like there's the Ethiopian Orthodox Church is like a whole wild different history. They have books in the Bible you've never heard of.
Oh, okay.
And I want to read them because I like reading stuff like that. So I'm trying to get like an Ethiopian Bible with all the apocryphal books just in the Ethiopian Bible universe. That not the general ones, not even Dead Sea Scrolls stuff. I just want the because I think that's like actually where the Ark of the Covenant might really be, is in Ethiopia because of the migration patterns. Well, you remember that movie where the people in Israel wanted to save people in Ethiopia because they were Jewish technically, because they were descended from the tribes, and it's like, oh, these people are Jewish because they're all black guys. It's like, yeah, they're like they according to our records, they send the CIA had to send a plane in to save a bunch of people.
Oh, I thought that's familiar. I can't remember.
Yeah, I forgot the movie's called, but it's like I looked that up
Oh.
because it's like, oh, that's real. That really happened. It's like, wow, that's crazy. So yeah,
But I feel like this movie opened the door for South Africa and entertainment because I know like soon later we'd get Dread was filmed there.
yes, yeah, that's right. I forgot
Um,
my favorite comic book movie of all time.
and then also around the time we had like that was the what was it, the Axis Boer War and the with those submarine books, the Joe
Oh,
Bluff books.
yeah, the Deep Sound Channel, and yeah,
Because there was like a alliance between South Africa and Germany
yeah,
against the world. So
with lots of nuclear weapons.
yeah.
Well, there was also a land war in Africa that was going on involving America, Germany, what was left of Europe, and but that was never covered because he was just doing the submarine side of it. Yeah, because what was the evil submarine? It was a South African nuclear submarine. Had a weird name. It's called the Vortrekker. Yeah, that was it. The Challenger versus the Vortrekker because they were both ceramic hulled submarines that just fired nuclear torpedoes at each other. It's like, oh, that's nuts. Yeah, I remember all that.
Yeah, that was also like they had to like build like a masking sound around the submarines because it was so silent that you could do the opposite of looking for a hole in the ocean to see where your submarine was.
Yeah, they made sonar to look for the absence of what was it, the background clicking of what's the thing at the bottom of the food chain? Plankton.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, no, you got to make a sonar. We want to make it look for sound. No, we're making it look for the absence of plankton. What does that mean? It's like that means that there's something moving through there, disrupting the sound.
Yeah, so that's everything. Yeah, so we'll get to Act One. We'll get a Peter Jackson Presents, which the trivia I read said he had $30 million to as part of the budget for the Halo movie, and then that went under, and so he gave him $30 million to make this movie.
Okay.
So I don't know if any of that's true because like this feels like a big movie, but also feels you can feel the budget too. You can feel moments where it's like, oh, this feels like an independent movie because they're just kind of like spinning the wheels with stuff.
When I watched it, rewatched it recently before the podcast, like today, I never thought of it until I watched it. It's like it has a feel of like an 80s movie almost. Kind of has the look.
I was gonna say that, and I thought it was kind of going for the JFK editing style.
Okay, yeah, I could see that too.
Where you have different kind of like film stock that you're filming. Here it's like different versions of digital cameras, but it's also going through the years because like technically what this spacecraft shows up in like the 90s or something like that, or
82.
82. Okay, yeah. So
Yeah.
So they kind of have different styles of documentary footage going on here. But if you watch those Halo commercials, I think it's called Landfall. He has kind of similar stuff where it has like just different stock footage that he'll cut to, because they'll have like this heat vision mode that they just cut to, and there's no purpose to it other than to like it looks different. So
Yeah.
and they show like, hey, here's gunfire, but then they cut to like the heat vision and like all the sound is muted for some reason, and you see the gunfire and the heat vision and stuff like that. So like you see the bullets hitting the ground bright white, and you see the flash of it. It's like, oh, it's just kind of a different look, and it's something else to cut to, and it's not it doesn't necessarily make any purposeful sense, but it looks neat. So
Yeah.
But yeah, I know this movie feels big and small at the same time, and I'm guessing shooting in South Africa probably like made their budget go a long way, especially having absolutely nobody starring in this movie. Like you didn't spend any money on the actors. So
Yeah.
Yeah, this is also a time where people presented movies. Well, I'm not actually sure what else Peter Jackson presents, but I do remember there was all the Tarantino presents stuff. So
Yeah.
because I believe
Yeah.
he presented Hero to America,
Okay.
the Jet Li movie. So he brought that over here and basically just put, Tarantino presents, and also he did that with one of the Takayashi Miike movies. Like he presented it and he was an actor in it. I can't remember who else was presenting movies at this time, but it was a thing. They have an office guy, like the show, and just literal. It's a guy who works in the office. Vickis Vandermeer. So, played by Charlton Copley, which this is like his first thing, maybe his biggest thing, but the trivia says like he wasn't looking to become an actor, but he's a great actor. Like everything he shows up in, you're like, wait, who is this guy? And it's like, oh, it's that guy.
Yeah.
Because I forget, he was in something recently where it's like, wait, is that Charlton Copley? And like I was like, oh, it is him. And I was like, I mean, I could believe it, but it was like out of nowhere. Like I think he had a bunch of prosthetics on. Like he could almost get to that like Gary Oldman type level.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, he also always plays just crazy people. So
Yeah, he's always kind of some version of like the guy he plays in Hardcore Henry is like a perfect description of what you're going to get from him.
yeah,
He's because he did a good job in Elysium. He was the most memorable guy in Elysium.
yeah.
Psychotic mercenary.
Well, he's even good in the A Team.
Yeah, he's in the 18. I forgot about the 18. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I don't know what he did recently. That maybe I'm thinking of. I did see Free Fire. I don't know if you've seen that movie.
Is that the British like comedy about assassins or whatever?
Kind of. It's like people are all. Yeah, it's like all assassins or people like shooting each other in like a warehouse, and basically everyone gets wounded, and they kind of like have conversations as they slowly move towards or away from each other. It has a really cool trailer, but it's just like an okay movie, so that's very easily disappointing. maybe I saw him in the Monkey Man movie, like in the advertisement, because I haven't seen that movie yet. But
yeah. It does show he's in that. So,
So he's talking about the MNU, the Multinational United Alien Affairs, which is even before we know the aliens. But of course, if you've seen the advertisements for this movie, you know what's going on. So. But he's being interviewed by a film crew, so it's a documentary thing. They explained about engaging with the prawn aliens, which is they never stop saying that because they present it as like it's a slur for the aliens, but then it's the only thing presented as identifying them. So.
Yeah.
Then we cut to an alien ship hanging over Johannesburg, South Africa, which that ship just looks cool, and it's very like. They're very good at like how they frame things where it's just always like in the background somewhere where it just kind of looms large. A lot of great like helicopter footage too, where they have like the helicopter bank and you kind of have that weird, like it's almost like the helicopter's falling towards the ground sideways kind of look, which they do that so often in this movie, but it looks cool every time. So where it's like, oh, they just must have had must have had a bunch of helicopters they could take advantage of. So, yeah, we get footage of the alien ship showing up and just hanging around. Like you said, it shows up in '82, and apparently it's just there floating for months. And then somebody went up and they cut a hole in the ship, and they found aliens that seemed to be malnourished and refugees. Like, I mean, that's kind of like the great thing about this movie is that they get through a lot of history really quickly, but then there's still like holes in almost every detail of this movie. It's like, wait, what are the aliens? Why don't they know anything about their own technology?
Yeah, someone called this the most abrupt world building you'll ever see. It pulls you in and it tells you a quick story, and then everyone starts shooting each other. It's like, oh, okay. Yeah.
Then we get titles District 9, and we have like the walled off place for all the aliens, which is, I mean, this is because it's South Africa. This is all like an apartheid like parable here, which is easy for me to say. I don't know. I don't necessarily know the details. I just know it was bad. So, But he would have Blomkamp would have grown up with this stuff, so he would know it, intimately. So
Yeah, there was a movie I watched called To Start a Fire,
okay,
something, and it had oh, who was the guy from Shawshank Redemption and Code 46? Drawing in the blank on him, but yeah, the main actor, Tim
yeah,
Robbins. Now he played an African intelligence officer, or an African or a South African guy, and it was about like in the 70s when they were just an act of sabotage would happen. I forget what they called them, like Bantustans or something. They had names for them, and but yeah, there was something too called where Neil Blomkamp grew up. There was something called District 6,
oh
which
okay,
was basically, I mean, here we'd call them like housing projects or something. It would be kind of the same, just an economically repressed area where people lived horribly, and there was all kinds of violence, privation, and crime. And yeah, so that's what but anyway, in that movie, they would find people, a crime would be committed, and the South African intelligence people would just gather people up and torture them. And it's like, just tell us who did it. It's like, I don't know who did it. And then they just keep hooking you up to a car battery until you betrayed whoever, your friends, your neighbors, whatever. And then they go round them up and shoot them. Well, they did that to this one guy who had nothing to do with anything. And then he got sent to prison, and he became a radicalized, like, I hate the South African apartheid government. And then he did become a terrorist and blew up a oil refinery.
huh?
But at the end of the movie, it's like him and Tim Robbins, and he's like, he was like, you made me into this. I was never this, but you just had to kill everyone I knew and torture me. And so, like, now, yeah, I am that guy. Congratulations. It's kind of an odd, quiet movie, but
Huh.
yeah.
And apparently PG-13.
Yeah, weirdly enough. Yeah, they don't really like get it. They don't show people pulling anyone's teeth out with pliers. It's just implied that that's
Yeah.
going on. So
It was directed by Philip Noyce, which I feel like I should know who that is.
yeah, he what was his movie? Can't remember. Anyway, go on.
Oh, he directed Sliver, which is not a good movie.
Mm-mm.
But it was like in the wake of Basic Instincts.
Yeah, it was a Basic Instinct, like, hey, we can take some of the same people and get the same buzz around it.
Oh, that's all his producing stuff. Maybe I'll look at his director stuff and maybe something will make sense.
I'm trying to think of what he's known for, because he's an Australian.
Dead Calm. We watched that. Okay.
Yes, okay. I know he's an Australian guy. Also did Rabbit Proof Fence.
Okay. Oh, Patriot Games. Okay. There you go.
There
and Clear and Present Danger. And The
Okay.
Saint, which I remember is a movie I liked and a TV show Dad liked. And now I don't know if either would be good, but whatever.
Probably. He also did Salt.
Oh yeah, that garbage.
Yeah.
I don't think that's necessarily garbage because of him. I think that's more garbage because of the script by what's his name? It was a W. Kurt Wimmer. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Kurt Wimmer, like the best, like first act. He's another first act guy. It's like, this seems cool.
Equilibrium's awesome. Like, what else did he do? Nothing.
Well, he wrote a bunch of things.
Pilot, it doesn't make any sense, but yeah. No, yeah, he wrote a lot of things.
Yeah, because he wrote like that Recruit movie with like Colin Farrell that was bad. Because it's like, if you know anything about the CIA, that movie's dumb as hell. But then that's the same thing with Salt. It's like pretty much the same premise. It's like, something's wrong with America's, initialisms or whatever. So,
The latest thing he did is The Beekeeper.
Oh yeah.
Which is another Jason Statham joint.
Yeah. Which I hear both good and bad things about.
Yeah, it's like, oh, he kills a guy with a truck. It's like, how? It's like, oh, it drives off a bridge and drowns him. It's like, that's actually kind of cool. Because the guy did horrible things.
Yeah. So. Yeah, we have Vickers here explaining about like engaging with the prawn aliens. We cut to the.
By the way, the prawns or something, that's not a term used mostly or at all in America. We would call those either crawfish or shrimp.
Yeah.
So, but that's not a term ever used here, but everywhere else,
Yeah,
English is spoken, it's very common.
I've always just directly translated prawn to shrimp. That's what
Yeah,
I've always done. So,
yeah, me too.
um, oh yes, yeah. District 9 is just a walled off place for aliens. It's also just kind of serves as a refugee camp as well. Because like when they open up the ship, it's like, well, they're starving. I guess we better help them.
Yeah,
Yeah, we get interviews and news footage explaining the whole history of the aliens over the years, which is like, yeah, this is what this movie does. Is like when they kind of like run out of when they run out of movie, they just cut to like, you know, like History Channel of background on what's going to happen or what happened. So, which I guess that's kind of like the good tension in this movie is like at some point you realize they're talking about Vicus in the past tense. It's like, oh, so he must have died. Well, I guess we'll find out what happened. So, yeah, obviously this is an apartheid parable. They're going through crime that surrounds the aliens and and the angry public that are near them, which you don't know how much like the aliens are instigating or how much it's just like the pushback against them. It's like you're not exactly sure.
yeah.
Because they do say like they kind of like show them off as being like mischievous, but then also they're just very violent too, and so you don't know like you can never tell when that switch is being flipped. So
Yes, because they're much bigger than humans, but they seem like, I don't know, they're like insects. They're
yeah,
very insectile. They seem bigger and stronger than humans, but also equally as, I mean, they're equally as, they're not immune to firearms or
yeah,
anything. They basically die the same way. It just, they seem to have extreme strength and they can jump very high. But they also don't seem to be exceptionally intelligent.
no.
I mean, they are, but
We'll know a couple, but we don't know if that's indicative of the entire people or whatever.
yeah, they seem to be like mechanistically ingenious, but they don't seem to be able to like apply that to anything larger. It's like, well, why aren't they running the world with
Yeah,
this kind of weaponry and stuff? It's like they're 1,000 years ahead of us, but they seem frustratingly backward. Which is either you don't know if that's like a feature of their, if like is that's what they are meant to be? Is are these kind of like repair aliens that are
yeah,
ruled by an overcast that we never see?
yeah. Is this some kind of caste system going on here? And most of it's like the lower bunch
Yeah,
that are meant to do something. We have no idea. We
because
don't.
they don't have a sex or anything. They're just egg laying aliens,
Yeah,
like men and women aliens. They're just one thing. So it's like, well, that would probably be like a genetically engineered like group.
yeah,
They don't seem to have leadership ability. They're all on their own.
yeah.
Like they're waiting for someone to lead them. They don't accept human beings. They don't work with human beings in any way, except in the most loose ways. And they seem just vaguely disgusting too. Like they we'll eat garbage. We'll eat anything.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they don't seem to have like any kind of what do you call that?
There's no culture there that exists.
Well, like they're not embarrassed by anything. What do you call that? They have no shame. That's
Yeah.
right.
No.
I mean, there's something like familiar about them. Like they have two legs. They have two arms, but then they got gut arms, so that's weird. But they never use them for anything.
Yeah. They seem to just move. They
Yeah,
just paw at the air, which is disconcerting. They have very human-like big eyes.
yeah, that's the most.
That express a lot.
Um,
Because they are just kind of insectile, but they do a good job of making, because these are all CG aliens, like these aren't people in costumes, so they do a good job with the eyebrows and or the forehead or whatever, and the eyes of like they're projecting. You understand what their emotions are because they never speak English either.
Yeah, it's all like these kind of weird clicks and stuff like that.
I guess their language is based on rubbing a pumpkin with your hand with a rubber glove and then just passing it through a processor a few times. But of course, now humans can innately understand what they're saying.
Yeah.
And, because, they talk.
It's like Star Wars rules where it's like nobody knows what Chewbacca's saying, but like everybody in the movie does. So,
Yeah.
Although we also get subtitles for most of their stuff. So,
yeah, that they do help the rest of us out. But for some reason, Vilcus and everyone can like completely understand.
Well, there's sometimes I say something and he'll be like, he'll
oh yeah, he does
miss some things.
Like, what's that one click? Go say it again. Yeah.
So the MNU are enacting a plan to move the aliens from District 9 to a camp outside the city, District 10, or I think it will be called that. So it's basically just a tent city, and um, but it's going to be way worse. So, well, actually, I don't know, but
No, he tells the
he
Christopher.
admits that to them later on, but you don't actually know. But it seems like getting them out there is going to be the problem. And then once they're there, like I don't know, but Vickers is unexpectedly put in charge of the project because he's married to the director's wife. Um, which I don't know if this is like intentional, like if he's meant to take the fall here, or if they're like, or if he's like trying to give this guy a leg up or what. But then they have an interview with Vickers' mom, who's like making. So yeah, this is where it seems like, oh, they're talking about the like him, like he's post death. So it's like, all right, what happened to this guy? We get Vicus and a bunch of soldiers are like arming up for the move. They have he has some conflict with the soldiers, and they don't respect or listen to him. He's like, "Hey, you're carrying too much ammo. It's like you can be more efficient if you carry less ammo." So he's like, "Fuck off." And I think this is where we're introduced to Kubus, who's like almost punches him in the face, and then like he gets scared and kind of like stops giving them directions. So yeah, they head off to go enact the eviction, which they got a bunch of helicopters and these weird vehicles that are like really far off the ground and are almost look like something you'd drive like on the moon or something like that.
Yeah, I have the name of these because it's all like South African stuff.
Yeah.
Because the MNU, like the rifles are just like Vector CR-21s,
Okay.
but they paint everything in this white color scheme.
Yeah.
So it makes it look like futuristic, but really those are all black. Yes, those big vehicles are basically redressed vehicles called a 1981 Rundmech Casper Series 2, which is just a troop transport, and I forget why it has the high tires. But I think it's for ground clearance and like wooded areas and stuff.
Okay. Because it also has kind of like the angular bottom to it, which we kind of have that with the MRAPs, which that's mine resistant, like assault vehicle or whatever, something like that. So,
yeah, this definitely seems to be, but because of its vintage in '81, it's an old vehicle they repainted. It's basically a 6-wheel drive diesel vehicle that they've redressed to make it look modern.
Yeah. They paint everything white, and then they do some like wear on it, so everything looks kind of neat in that way.
Yeah,
where it's like, oh, it's like it stands out, but it's also, it's like it's beat up, it's been used. So, because like all the helicopters are white, everything they have is white, all their armor is white, except for like it seems like the more brown, like your uniform is, the more special forces you kill people for a living your character is.
yeah. The less you look like a security guard, the more they you're you have better weapons.
What is that at the end? Like that Kubus guy just has like a Mac 10 with like a scope on it. It's like, I don't know how effective that is. So yeah, as they show up, the aliens are running away. There's some gunfire, which it doesn't like kick off a whole incident. It just kind of these like happen, and then like, what's that? And then also there's the fun, like the Vicus is talking to his replacement, and like they don't have like a bulletproof vest for him. It's like I'll be okay.
Yeah.
It's like, but I have a family. It's like, I'll just stay about what's the one guard he keeps saying his name is like Nicholas or something like that.
I think so. Yeah. Big guy. Yeah.
Yeah, he's got the shotgun, so he's kind of the heavy around them. Let's see. One of the prawns starts eating a tire on the side of the car, and then it just like kicks a soldier, like dead, I assume, because there's a lot of mist of blood when he kicks the guy, so I assume he's dead. Then there's some firefighting, which I think they kill that alien, but then like. Then Vika starts throwing stuff at him, and the guy's like, "Is that hand grenades?" He's like, "No, it's cat food." so he's actually like gotta be like he disarms like a firefight with cat food. So he's actually kind of a smart guy. So he's not just a pure idiot. So because like and then I think they cut to like a like a documentary section explaining that like cat food is like crack to the aliens or something. I'm not sure what it's.
It has a drug-like effect. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. The cat food is catnip for the aliens, which is funny. So there's a group of Nigerian gangsters, like that's how they're specifically stated as. So, which I guess this movie got banned in Nigeria because of that. It's like,
Yeah, because it portrayed Nigerians as being psychopathic warlords.
yeah, but they're not in your country anymore. So yeah. They're yeah, so they're just taking advantage of the situation. So they trade with the aliens and like tech from the ship. It's implied that they even have like prostitution between the aliens here, but you don't know what that's going on there. They just kind of cut to like a lady who's like skimpily dressed, and they imply that they're prostituting to the aliens. Um, then Vicus and his crew, they find prawn eggs that's like being fed by like hung cow heads, which that's like
Yeah, it's more. It's this biomechanical grossness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Vicus just does some casual abortion, and they set the shed on fire. And it's like it's the little guys, they're popping. It's like popcorn. They're dead now. So
Yeah, when it gets hot enough, whatever's left of them pops out the top, and it's like, yeah, he's very excited by it. Like it's funny.
yeah, which makes Vicus seem real bad. It's like, oh man, like I thought he was just an idiot. Now he seems like a monster. But that's good character development for him. So, so yeah, they start showing off some of the weird alien weapons, which only aliens can use, which is a very integral to the plot, because it means that like because the ship's been around for like 28 years, and it means that like humanity has not been able to take any advantage of the technology on the ship because they can't use it. It won't let them. so like it's like so humanity's just advanced as with basically without there's not even like designs or anything like the alien ship has influenced nothing.
No, it's just been a problem for South Africa.
Yes.
But it's also this company, Multinational United, has somehow become the world's largest arms manufacturer.
Yeah.
Because they're charged with dealing with this, and supposedly they can probably side sell things like, oh well, this is a result of alien technology. Our weapons are superior, when the reality is it's like we can't get anything from these people. And you find out later in the movie they're desperately trying in the most horrible way possible to exploit alien technology.
Which the thing I thought they were going to do, which they kind of do later on, is I figured, wouldn't they just like take a dead alien arm and make it pull the trigger on the gun? But I'm guessing the alien has to be alive for the technology to work.
Yeah, there seems to be something about prawn technology and prawn weapons. It's like, oh yeah, their fuel supply, the thing that will power other stuff, it basically has these mutagenic properties because it's so closely tied to prawn DNA. That's how everything works.
Oh, okay. Oh.
Which is like a great like security device for technology. It's like, well, your enemies, if they're aliens, can't use it against you. Again, no explanation
and
as
if
to
they
how.
Fuck around with it, they'll become you.
Yeah.
Then we got to focus on a prawn family scrounge around for alien tech that has like some special fluid in it.
Yeah.
They find some, and then like they distill from the fluid like a drop into another bit of technology, which they say it's been 20 years of work. So yeah, they're trying to get this. Oh, that's the thing I don't entirely understand. I get like, hey, we loaded up all the aliens in the helicopter and brought them down to the surface, but how does the tech and robots and all that crap get down? Does it just fall off the ship at some point?
Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff that fell off the ship.
Okay.
Because we see in the beginning, like they kind of explain, like this one thing fell out of the ship.
Yeah, they mentioned like, there's the rumor of the command module that fell out of the ship, and that's, presumably what led all these people, but now it's gone forever. So,
yeah.
But we'll find it later on. So, but yeah, even at the end of the movie, we don't know if that's what it is or what it does or it has any purpose. So,
yeah, it's.
Vicus shows up to a victim. The yellow prawn is taken outside. Vicus finds the lab and pokes around. He finds the vial that they put together that they got the extract of the liquid for. He opens it up and some of the liquid like sprays in his mouth, which he like is like cut the camera off. So he's kind of like temporarily embarrassed by this, um, um, but then they find a stash of weapons, which is like it's human weapons just in the room. It's like, hey, we found it. It's like, hey, get this. And like Vicus grabs an alien gun to show it off to Thomas, their guard. He's like, yeah, that's cool, but like, and then like his replacement's kind of looks scared about this stuff. It's like, hey, does it work? What are you waiting about? Then the yellow alien starts fighting the crew. We get like Vicus gets like knocked into a porta potty and breaks his arm. And then an M&U helicopter lands and fights the alien, and then the alien just gets executed. This is Kubus here, just shooting it in the head, which he just loves killing prawns. He lives to kill prawns.
Yeah, he does not like them.
The red shirt alien sees this and runs off. Vicus gets treated for injuries, which Kubus is yelling at. I think Kubus calls him like a medevac, and he's like, "No, I'm fine." But they just use that to laugh at Vicus. The red alien goes to another house where they have like the little alien is playing with tech, which like sometimes it's playing with like human tech, and then like Christopher here is what his name is, Christopher Johnson, is saying like it's human stuff, it's worthless. So it's like stop playing around with it. But then Vicus shows up at that house to evict them or shack. He's like this is where he's like reads more into like the clipboard that they have out that has stuff on it, and then he says like, your name's Christopher Johnson, right? And it's like, yeah. And then he like Christopher start arguing against the legality of the eviction. It's like, well, it says I have 24 hours to leave. Like, why are you pushing me out of here? It's like, this is illegal. And then like Vicus is like, oh, we got a smart one here. And then he starts like talking about like, hey, it's very dirty around here. Like, we're gonna need to like put your child in child services because it's so dirty around here, which like I don't know what that means in this situation. They have a special child like
you have to have a permit to have a child.
Yeah, that too. Yeah,
it's like, does he have a permit? It's all that. It's like, yeah, it's basically bureaucratic minutia to make you into a slave.
Yeah. Then Vicus gets ill and starts like projectile vomiting. Is it black yet, or is that later on?
I think that's later.
Okay. Then Vicus and his team are leaving District 9. Vicus is hungry, so he orders a bunch of food, and then he starts bleeding like black stuff from his nose, so he doesn't seem well.
Yeah, this doesn't seem to be working.
So that being the end of Act 1. We got Act 2. Vicus is back at the office filling out paperwork. He's unwell. And then his fingernails start falling off, which is just very The Fly. So, then we cut to Christopher and the kid Prawn go back to the lab shack looking for the liquid cylinder. But they can't find it because Vicus took off with it. He doesn't know what it is. He just bagged it up and took it. Then we cut to Obsanjo. He's the leader of the Nigerian gang. He makes a deal for a mech. And then has the alien killed, and then he eats part of it because he's like paralyzed, so he thinks like eating parts of the alien will like fix him or something like that. And also like the aliens sell him this mech robot for a bunch of cat food, but then like they can't use it, so it just sits there. So they just collect all this technology, hoping one day they'll be able to use it. So, then we cut to Vicus comes home sick to a birthday party, which is fun because he's like, I think I shat my pants a little bit, and then like surprise. So then like nobody seems to be listening to him, and we have the director, which is like his his wife. It's like his wife's name's Tanya, but spelled like Tania.
Yeah,
which when I look at that, it'd be like Tanya. It's like, oh no, it's Tanya. Okay, whatever. Just all Dutch names just have to be weird like that, or what's going on here? Like, are these like Dutch names like from the homeland, or did they make these up like when they got there? Like, what's going on here?
I don't know. I mean, we'd have to ask the most famous South African, Elon Musk.
Yeah. Again, a ridiculous name. So.
Yeah.
But But yeah, the director kind of is displeased with Vicus because I guess there's too many aliens that were dead, like in the move. Which again, like I don't know. I don't know if it's intentional or if if anybody really cares how many dead aliens there are. I mean, there are protesters. So I guess there are people who
Yeah, there are
on
human
some
rights protesters and
yeah,
stuff.
but that's always the hard thing. They're not human.
Yeah.
But no, that extends animal rights. Or what do you consider that? What do you call that? When people have a consciousness, what do you call that?
Oh.
Well, I
Yeah.
can't think of the name. Oh, anyways.
Yeah. Prawns would clearly pass the Turing test. Self-aware.
Yeah,
So,
self-awareness test. Yeah.
yeah. Okay.
Or self-awareness rights. There we go.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's the thing. Yeah. I mean, if you watch the Animatrix, that was the same thing with that went on there. It's like the robots were tortured so much that they just rebelled and killed everyone. So. Vicus cuts the cake and then.
Or an alternate way of looking at it is the robots were still slaves to humanity, even in the world of the Matrix. They could never throw off the shackles of their human masters.
Yeah.
Because even though they had autonomy, they still needed us as a power source. And they had to invent very elaborate ways to keep us alive in a world that would no longer support us.
I know that there's that new Beetlejuice movie coming out, and it has Monica Bellucci in it. And I was like, I know her, but why do I know her? And it was like, oh, she's in the sequel Matrix movies. So.
Yeah, she's like the Merovingian's girlfriend or something. This beautiful,
some hot Italian lady,
beautiful woman. Yeah. I know her. It's the Merovingian's girlfriend.
Vicus cuts the cake and then vomits on it and passes out. What is is this like a cash register? Do you know what shape this cake is trying to be?
I don't know. I didn't understand that.
Okay. I just wonder if I was the only one.
Because I even look things up about what does the cake mean. It's like
cake is a lie.
Yeah. There is no cake.
They're at the hospital. They cut off his cast, and it's revealed he has a prawn hand now. So that liquid that hit him in the face is now turning him into a prawn. And seems like completely, it's not like a hybrid. It's just fully taking over. Because he has 5 fingers, but do all prawns have 3 fingers? Because that's what he has now. Okay, so yeah, it's just full conversion. Tanya's in the waiting room. A unit runs in and just kidnaps Vicus. I thought they were putting him in a body bag, but it does have a clear window on it, so it's kind of more of a a containment unit thing going on here.
Yeah, it still doesn't look like a nice thing to be in. Might have bottled oxygen.
Vicus is taken to some laboratory where they're running tests on him. Which his wife is like, "Hey, where are you taking him? What's going on?" Vicus sees scientists dissecting prawns, which he kind of feels suspicious. He's like, "Wait, is this what you guys are doing?" It's apparently nobody is aware this is happening, but also this apparently seems to be 90% of what this company's meant to do. So.
Yeah, there's not a lot about. There is some things about MNU, but yeah, you don't. There was like a website with an expanded universe. It wasn't quite an ARG thing, but it was close.
Okay.
Where you could read through files, because MNU is basically a conglomeration of South African and American defense contractors into one thing, and it's like they keep their operations in South Africa because you couldn't torture and murder the prawns in America. People would notice, but South Africa you can do it because things are so wide open there. So that's why they're still operating there. But yeah, it's some evil group that's we'll do anything and just won't tell anyone.
Well, I mean, this is maybe the heyday of the ARG, the alternative reality game.
Yeah. It's just you didn't have anywhere to go with the expanded District 9 stuff. It was just interviews there was a resistance leader for the prawns. Or you could choose I want to work for MNU, and it's oh well, we need security guys, and here's your machine gun.
But I mean, he did some of the Halo advertising stuff, which the Halo had its famous "I Love Bees" ARG, which is you don't know it's secret Halo advertising. It's go to the I Love Bees website, and what's this about? which is also around the same time as my favorite one for the Year Zero Nine Inch Nails album.
Yeah.
Which is something, I mean, you could do it now, but in different ways. But like it, like conceptually, it's fucking amazing, and the album's just kind of like okay.
Yeah.
um, but like, so you go out, you buy the CD, which I did. Went to Best Buy, got the Nine Inch Nails CD. You put it in your CD player in your car. You start listening to it. You get home. You take the CD out, and when you put the CD in, it was black, and when you take the CD out, it's now revealed ones and zeros on there. And you're like, what's that about? And then you put that in the website, and then you're taken off into the Year Zero org, which is about like, a future where it's like some apocalypse is happening, but they can send information back in time, but they can't send people. It was amazing. And apparently, if you followed along, you could have found like a secret Nine Inch Nails concert in real life.
Nice. Yeah, there's always those people like when Lost was doing that they found all the like stuff in the real world.
Yeah.
Like stuff hidden places, and it's like, wow, but it took like this massive amount of, you got to be really intelligent and really dedicated and be able to travel too.
Yeah.
But no, I'd say the District 9 website was more in line with like the Donnie Darko website, where it was just a lot of information, and sometimes you'd find something, but click on this weird thing, and it would be like, no, this is from the underground. Like, don't deal with these people. MNU's evil. They're dissecting prawns for bioweapons, and yeah, so it had that stuff.
Okay.
But it didn't have anything where you could go to the real world and do secret stuff or anything. It was more of like a movie website with just a ton of information.
I thought I heard something like they had a short film to this, but maybe that was just the advertising in that section.
Well, it was based on his short film called Alive in Joburg.
Oh, okay.
Which was the same story, kind of, but it was all a documentary, and it was about these aliens showed up.
Huh.
And I think Charlton Copley was in it, but more as a narrator or a guy. It didn't have the kind of story this did.
Okay.
It was just a lot of like Neil Blomkamp showing his skill at integrating CG stuff with real actors, even on a super limited budget.
Yeah.
It's like because they were in big walking like mech suits, the aliens, instead of like prawns like they were here. But it's like, oh yeah, this looked kind of cool.
Okay.
Just like Chappie was based on his short film about robot police.
Oh, okay.
Which like everyone's tried the robot police thing, since then. And
there's a Netflix movie that they did that has two of them that did that.
Yeah.
They're just kind of there. They're not like the focus of it. It's like they show up, and it's even on the cover of the movie. The movie's fine. It's like it's an independent Canadian sci-fi movie. So
is that the one where they have the robot cops and there's people with superpowers?
Yeah.
And the robot cops police the people with superpowers because they're so dangerous.
Yeah, I think so. It has a name that's basically District 9. Let me see if I can find it. I only know it's like, I was the guy from the Arrow TV series.
Yeah, because some people
him and his brother are in it.
Some people can weld with their hands, and some people can manipulate electricity.
Yeah, it's the Amell brothers.
Yeah.
I think he's in the sequel. I don't think Stephen Amell shows up till the sequel, but yeah, it's Code 8. That's the name.
Okay.
That's the name of the movie.
Yes, it has the robot cops in it.
Yeah. Which is very Chappie-esque, even though I never saw the movie. So, let's see here. Oh yeah, so yeah, they're getting they make Vicus like test fire the prawn weapons with his prawn hand, and so they work. So they're like, oh, this is like, hey, like we can make use of this.
This is the biggest breakthrough they've had in 20 years.
And then Vicus is like refusing to pull the trigger, but then they just shock his arm to make it pull the trigger anyways. And then eventually they just bring out a live prawn to make him shoot, which he restarts. Well, at some point he's like, I'll pull the trigger, and they just keep shocking him anyways. But now he's like, no, don't make me do this. And then the alien prawn just gets blown up by some energy gun, which they like. Yeah, the way these guns kill people is very quick and abrasive. But
yeah, they're essentially boiling people alive. Like they're using like energy There's a sonic weapon. There's just impact weapons, but they're super fast.
Yeah.
It's like my favorite gun from Elysium, the Elysium, the Kim Rail, where you just fire a gun that like goes through walls and blows a guy to bits. It's like that doesn't seem like a good thing to have on a space station. Oh, it looks cool. It makes a cool sound. So,
then we kind of cut to like some dude who's like a part of the science, background. He just coldly explains that they need what they need to do to Vicus to take advantage of the alien technology, which is essentially to just like essentially eviscerate him atom by atom until they can learn something from it. So
yeah, they need to figure out like why is he mutating and how can we get this mutating factor into other people so they can use these weapons. But they're just willing to like insanely like let's cut the one guy up we have, kill him quick. Which is like it makes the story very dramatic, but it's also like, well, no one's this evil and stupid. They would keep him in a cage and like let's see what happens.
Well, I was to say he'll just eventually turn into a prawn.
Yeah.
Which, like, the liquid that got him was black, and he's, like, bleeding black liquid and stuff like that. So I figured that he would be a vector for, like, turning other people into prawns, but that's not a thing in this movie.
No, that he, like, bleeds and pukes on everyone. And Kubus, like, seizes the thing that the nanotech shit shot out of, and he has no effects from it either. So I don't know. It must be a very particular thing at the moment of activation.
Yeah.
But that's like a lot of things with this movie. We're not doing like deep storytelling.
The director and some politicians give the go ahead to basically just blend him up or whatever. So the doctors are trying to cut his heart out. It's like, why are you starting there? That's weird, but okay. And he escapes his restraints, and they take.
Yeah, the director is also his father-in-law, and he's like, yeah, go ahead, do this.
He takes a doctor hostage and he just kind of like leaves the building. It's kind of unceremoniously almost. But the director gets a call when he's basically trying to tell his daughter that Vicus is dead, and then he gets a call. It's like, oh, he escaped, and so they send, what is his name? Kubus? Yeah, Kubus after him. I have it written here, Kebus, so I'm like, that's wrong. So
Kubus Venter is his name. Nobody has a name that cool. Colonel Kubus Venter.
Again, weird name.
Yeah, it's like, it's almost one thing and then another. Okay, cool.
It's like Kool-Aid and Kleenex crammed together in some weird way.
Kleenex or Kool-X.
They pull out they put out a news report of Vicus being contagious while he's trying to get food. Although the food.
And they have a real funny like early internet like fake what do they call that Photoshop thing.
Yeah,
they blur it out, but it basically implies he's having sex with a prawn.
Yeah.
They're like, this guy, he's got an STD from which in South Africa, that's a reference to AIDS. Like that it's like, oh, okay, that's exactly what they're talking about.
Oh yeah, we got a montage of Vicus on the run. He's kind of scavenging stuff, picking food off the ground, and eating it as quickly as possible. And he steals a cell phone, which was probably useful at this time. But if you stole a cell phone now to try to use in whatever weird situation where you need to contact people, useless to you. Because like, do you memorize any phone numbers anymore?
No.
There's no phone book.
And mine has that special thing I paid to have put on it where it's got just a dime size amount of plastic explosives in it. And if I press something on my watch, it just explodes if you steal it. They tell me I can't have that. I don't agree with them.
I'm going to tell you can't have that phone.
I wonder what that would be like. It's like, well, I made my phone so it blew his hand off. It's like, well, he stole it. Like, you mutilated him for the rest of his life. Well, he has one less hand to steal it now. Case dismissed. No, I don't think it would go that way. But
yeah, I forget there was some weird website that had like gun memes. And I think I think I know 3 of them. And like one of them was like the Homeboy Night sights where they put the sights on the side of the gun. There's one was like the Nuke 50, where it was just a gun that shot a nuclear bullet. There was like the there was like the Mac 10 extended mag where it just extended for like 400 pages, and like, you know, people are like standing and like, oh my god, it goes on forever. And then of course there was the Shot Caller 9000 or something like that, where it was just a cell phone with a 9mm bullet ready to go off in someone's ear. So
Yeah, but it was like a huge old school cell phone.
yeah.
And I remember the homeboy night sights. Like, didn't somebody like take a screen grab of that, and a bunch of like politicians got upset because they thought it was real? Or maybe that was part of the joke. I don't remember, but I remember, yeah, it's a Glock with the sights on the side, so you can hold it this way, and it's like, yeah, that's funny. Can't actually gun that way effectively though.
I don't know. They got canted sights now, so it's, you know, it's not that far off from that. So
yeah,
it just depends what. It just all depends on whether that's the you know, I don't know if there's more flex in that than on the top of the, you know, it's probably not. You can probably make that work. So, well, and they have that whole like whatever, you know, whatever the John Wick style of like shooting is, where you hold like the gun like directly in your face at like a 45-degree angle. So
yeah,
it's like, you know, it'll work. So it's like,
yeah. I mean, I
but
like I said,
in movies and pop culture, it's always presented as like, it's like, it's someone shooting for style and not for efficiency.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, I mean, I tried to be cool and shoot a shotgun from the hip at 3 feet and hit nothing. Like, well, this obviously isn't working. But then I redeem myself when I pull out the Tavor and just blow a target into smithereens. And like people come from the outside. What kind of gun is that? It's like, that's something cool now. Yeah. I can feel the shockwave from over here. It's like, it's a shotgun. That's all it is.
Yeah, we had people come up to us and like, we thought we were in trouble because we weren't sure if we were supposed to be there shooting that kind of shotgun in that way. And they're like, oh my God, what's that?
Yeah.
It's like, oh.
I was going to let the guy shoot it. He didn't want to. He's afraid of it. He's like, I don't know. It's like, it's a 12-gauge shotgun. Yeah, because like I said, that was classic. Because people were out there throwing clay pigeons with guns that had like elk and stag carved on them, and I'm like pulling out something that looks like it came out of a science fiction movie, wearing a Hawaiian shirt, and everyone's like, what the fuck is he shooting? I should have said, hey, throw some clays for me. I think I got it. Do you need to reload? Not yet. Yeah, that was fun. That made it all worth the foolishness that I did earlier. But imagine that. I don't have a lot of experience with effectively a sawn-off shotgun. Like, I've never used one before. They're illegal as shit unless you run through the legal loopholes and then you have one.
It's an NFA firearm.
Yes.
Let's see here. Vicus goes to hide out in District 9, so that's sort of the irony of everything. It's like, well, they're not going to look for him there because they won't expect him to be there. Next day, Vicus is hungry, and he tries getting meat from some Nigerians, but then he settles for cat food. And then his teeth start falling out after he's eating the cat food.
Yeah, I hate that scene.
Which is like, he's like, he enjoys the cat food for a moment, but then he gets sick of it, and then his teeth start falling out.
Yeah.
Then Tanya calls him. She like cries and says she doesn't want him around anymore. So it's like, well, that's a bummer. So then Vicus grabs an axe from the Nigerians and tries to cut his arm off, but then just cuts his finger off.
Yeah, which is a horrifying scene.
Does that finger grow back or what? It's just,
no, I don't think so. Because we'll talk about the end of the movie at the end. But yeah.
Kubus and a squad of choppers. I wrote move in on District 9, but they just fly over it. So I'm not even sure if they intend to like look for him or anything. So, then Vicus hides out in the tech shack and he meets with Christopher and he asks like for basically for, I wrote refugee, but that's not the term. Asylum. Yeah. Vicus passes out from blood loss from cutting his finger off, and they see his hand and they know the fluid did something to him. Like, I think that's what they call it, the fluid.
Yes.
And then Vicus wakes up and he tells them that the fluid that they need is at M&U because like Christopher here is promising that he could fix them if they get the fluid. Um, and Vicus looks around. He sees the ship underground. This is the maybe rumored command ship that fell from the mothership 20 years or 28 years ago, whether or whenever. Um, which do you think the people here, like Christopher, you think those were the people in that ship, or do you think they found it and tried to get it working again?
I always think of Christopher as some kind of someone in the leadership cast, but he definitely seemed to take a long time to figure out, like, hey, this Earth thing isn't working out. So the prawns are just a total enigma
Yeah,
because it's like they're obviously intelligent, very intelligent. They obviously have technology at least 1,000 years ahead of ours, at
yeah,
least.
yeah,
And it's like, but they don't seem to be able to effectively act in their own interest in some way,
yeah.
which means they are either genetically engineered or inherently don't develop leadership amongst themselves. Someone else has to tell them what to do. Which,
Well,
like,
I mean, they do have individuality though, because instead of just taking one model of the prawns and just duplicating it, every prawn has its own personal identity. Like either have some clothes, or they all have some kind of spray paint on their
yeah,
exoskeleton.
they like to stencil things on their carapace.
Yes.
Yeah. So they do have some kind of individual sense, but it doesn't seem like collectively they do leadership very
Yeah.
well.
No.
Or it could be that Earth has made them so sick that they're not functioning at all,
Yeah.
too. Because I mean, what are the chances of we came from another planet? It's like, yeah, we can breathe the same air you have and have the same level of gravity here, and your food won't make us sick. It'd probably be more War of the Worlds than anything else. So, if what we know about microbiology is true, but it also seems like prawns can eat garbage too, and like
I
litter.
mean, as far as we know, there's not even food on that ship. Like they just ran out of it or something.
Yeah, and they were just happy to sit in there and die until humans showed up with welding torches.
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing here, guys?
Because it wasn't like, oh, they have to grow and eat their own food. Like, no, they just eat whatever's around. So,
Yeah, they'll eat like organ meat, awful skeletons for some reason. Pigs.
rubbers like marshmallows to them or
Yeah,
something.
tires are like marshmallows to them, which is like, well, that's a weird digestive. Take organophosphates like that because that would poison our blood. But
Yeah, but depending on their DNA's like half machine or something, or something to coalesce with their technology. So maybe that.
or it could be something even darker because we know that prawn nanotech is what I'm going to call it. The
Yeah.
fluid can mutate humans into prawns. Maybe that's what the prawns actually were originally. Is
Yeah.
humans that got mutated into that for some purpose.
Yeah.
It seems to be that's how their technology works. But
Or some other alien race that just got mutated into they just
yeah,
picked up a bunch of aliens from a different planet, mutated them all, and then brought them to Earth.
yeah.
So. I don't know. Is that there's somewhere that was listed as a District 10 as maybe happening. I'm not sure if that is happening or not.
He said he wanted to do it someday, and then when he was doing promo for Gran Turismo, they asked him about what about District 10. He's like, I don't want to do it right now, but maybe someday it'll get made. I'm not committing to anything.
Okay.
So yeah, it's been on again off. Well, a lot of things with Neil Blomkamp have been abbreviated and cut short.
Yeah.
So he's roughly my age. So it's like, that would be kind of disappointing to constantly be jerked around like that. So I would like to see it, but I would also like to see Firebase made into a HBO miniseries where everyone's dark and gray, but it's also the world of Firebase. We're just panning through realities. So it's like, yeah, he could do that too.
I don't know, there's actually a bunch of similarities between this month's movie or this week's movie and next week's movie. No, that's not the one I'm looking for. There we go. Gareth Edwards. He's another guy who he did special effects work and got into movies. And then because we're doing Monsters next week, and that was kind of his first big indie movie, which very economical indie movie, sci-fi movie. Just working with what you got. But also he also did the Star Wars Rogue One movie, which we really like, which we'll also get into that at some point. And but he also just like his entire career is like movies that almost happened, but he never got to make. And it's like, oh, one of these guys just assholes. But then I saw on the Corridor Crew, like they did a special episode with Gareth Edwards, and he just seems like the nicest person in the world that just wants to make fun movies. And it's like, wait, what's the problem? Is he just not making people money? Like, what's going on here? Um,
Yeah, because I'm just a fan of movies. I've never made one or attempted to make one or work with the people that make them, but the stories I hear are consistent. It's like this guy's cool, the director's cool, the actors are great. Sometimes they're not, but usually it's like when you hear about these things, it's like it was a huge problem and everything turned into be a mess. It's like, oh man, the director must be a jerk or the actor must be a jerk, and then you find out it's like no, they went in told they were doing one thing, and then the people running the studio who's all of a sudden, hey, we want you to change direction right in the middle of what you're doing.
Yeah.
And he's like, I can't, this would be a terrible product. Well, you're fired. And then it turns out to be a terrible, ta-da, it's a terrible product. And it's like, okay, huh.
So here, Christopher says he can maybe fix him on the mothership if they had the fluid. So that's the promise now. Or like, no, we cut the night and Vicus sees more of himself turning into a prawn, where he's just kind of like more like black spots over his body that are kind of poking through, and he kind of has like more of the carapace kind of taking form. Tanya calls him again, asking where he is. She says she wants him back, but then they just cut to the call being traced. So I don't know if she's being duped or if she was genuine there, and her father took advantage of her. I'm not sure.
I think she's being duped because based on the end of the movie, she seems genuinely upset.
Yeah.
So I think her dad, who was like just happy to like, yeah, kill my son-in-law, and slice him up like bologna. Let's see. That's that guy doesn't seem like he has too many.
My
morals.
bologna has a first name. It's Wikus.
Yeah. Let's slap some bolognas on these energy guns and see what happens. Take over the world. We'll form the Germanic Boer Alliance.
Christopher tries to tell a kid that the kid has to go live in the tents because there's no going home anymore. But here's where Vicus pops in and agrees to, like, they plan to go back to MNU and steal the fluid because he knows where it is. It's in the weird dissection testing facility of the MNU. That seems to be like,
Christopher, you're not going to like any of this, however.
Which seems to be just kind of like slightly below ground, like in the parking garage area. It's like, it doesn't seem like it's hard to access. Let's see here. Then we cut to morning. Vicus goes to Vicus goes to the Nigerian gangster to try to buy weapons from him. He tries to deal with Obsanjo. But Obsanjo like pokes his arm to get and tastes the blood out of it. So it's like, that's weird.
Yeah.
And they're about to cut off his arm when he's able to grab some alien force push gun. It's almost like the gravity gun from Half-Life here, or Half-Life 2.
That's what I thought of it as. Yeah.
And so he's able to kind of push people around with it, and he's able to get some more weapons. Then he heads out, which they get some like AKs or whatever. A lot of different AKs in this movie.
Yeah,
they got AKs. They got
AK-47s.
What did you say? The Galil?
Yeah, the Galil's in here.
Which I only know because of the vertical oriented charging handle. I think that's a Galil, or maybe it's the South African version of the Galil.
Yeah, because I know one of the Galils is Israeli, and then there's the Vector is the South African version.
Okay, so
because the Israelis were a lot smaller than the average South Africans.
Yeah,
so they had to make the Vectors had to be large because South Africans are more in line with American sized people, whereas most Israelis are 5'6", something like that. They're not. They have to, and also they have to have a lot of women in their forces because they don't have a large population pool.
Yeah,
so they have to, make them different.
Vicus gets his weapons and heads out of there, and Obsanjo swears he's gonna get him. Then we cut to Kuba sends a team into District 9, but like as they're poking around, they're like Vicious isn't here, so we cut to he's at M&U breaking in, which I think they just blow a hole in the wall somewhere and just
Yeah.
walk in, and Vicus finds a tube, but Christopher sees like all the dissected corpses around and gets distracted. Um, and then Kuba's team make their way back here. Vicus just blows up one guy, which he hits him with like some weird white lightning gun, and he just evaporates. So, but like evaporates, but like with a sphere blood spray. So you get both. It's not. They didn't turn to dust; they turned into fast liquid.
Yes, it's called the arc gun in the weapons, the wiki fandom 9 page.
What other movie has the arc gun been? Is this exclusive to this movie?
I've heard the name before, but yeah, this seems to be.
I mean, it's just that that definitely seems like something out of video games. So there's clearly like a crossover here. It's like,
Well, these are just repurposed guns from Halo.
Yeah.
Because let's see, the arc gun is the electrical one, and then like the impact type one is just called the repeater. But that's the one where just the bullets like fly through walls.
Yeah.
And then they have the sonic gun. And then the what's the one that Wilkes used? The shockwave blaster is a gravity gun. Like pushes people away and stuff.
Reverse gravity.
And then they have all the reverse versions of it on the mech suit later. It's basically the same weapons, just larger.
Yeah. Yeah, they start getting overrun. Vicus is able to like snap Christopher out of it, so Christopher builds a bomb and they blow a hole in the parking garage and they just hop in a truck and get out of there. They get back to the tech shack and they're being chased by Kubus. Vicus learns it'll take 3 years to fix him, which I'm not sure if that's like 3 years of working on him or 3 years to go back home and come back.
3 years of flight time.
Okay. So after hearing that, he's like, yeah, I'll just wait here. And then he knocks out Christopher and grabs the canister and goes down in the ship down below. Kuba shows up and like harasses Christopher. Wicca starts the ship up, and so like they leave the shack as the ship comes out from underneath the ground. Wickus flies the ship off the ground. It's kind of a VTOL with rockets or whatever. It's,
Yeah, it looks kind of cool.
Yeah. I mean, it's very like simple Pelican kind of thing going on.
Yeah.
Then they have like an anti-aircraft like missile bank that's just rated out of just waiting by, and so it blows up one of the engines and the ship crashes very Black Hawk Down style. So
you see those a lot because they're basically like spheres with multiple lenses coming out of them.
Yeah.
Implied to be a radome behind them with missiles sitting there, and you see them at the entrance gates, and you see them in the background in a lot of District 9. And it never made sense because I always thought, well, that's for shooting down aircraft. Even I know that. Yeah. I'm not an expert, but it's like, those are what are they flying? And it's like, oh, because they knew this thing was down here. So they just set those up. Like if anything like that moves to the ship, shoot it down. So it's like, oh, okay. They kind of set that up. And they also just looked intimidating because they're always rotating around with this. It's like, okay, yeah, that's scary. You wouldn't want to get one of those up your ass.
I guess another thing impressive about the special effects in this movie is like a lot of it's like in daylight, and it's really hard to do CGI in daylight, but they do it
pretty this is mostly a daylight movie. It looks very hot and uncomfortable there. I guess it was shot during the fall there.
Huh, okay.
Because the air kind of looks dirty, which they liked.
Huh.
Because they were basically like pretending the prawns lived in a landfill, essentially. So it's like, oh, okay.
I also know that like this is like the first movie I heard about like shooting on the Red 1 camera. What I've heard is like they used it because they are more mobile, but the thing I know about the Red 1 camera is that like it better articulates the what do they call it, film stop, or the something special about 35mm film. The Red 1 can replicate in a digital fashion. So a lot of movies, especially after this movie, a lot of them started using it because there is some digital artifacting stuff in here, but they're also literally using like digital cameras for some scenes that aren't the Red 1. They're like literally like news cameras.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't know what movie cameras they're using now. I mean, they still could be using the Red 1. Apparently, these were just like Peter Jackson's Red 1 cameras. He had like 30 of them or something, just
Yeah,
laying
that makes sense.
around. I mean, you could buy one. They're only like 20 grand, which I know that's a lot, but when you know how much movie cameras cost, especially film, it's like that's a steal.
Oh yeah, and it works well with it's digital and CGI,
Yeah,
and yeah,
yeah,
and
you,
I think it has a bunch of different lens options,
yeah,
which a lot of them don't do that very well. It's like it just shoots great with these three lenses,
yeah,
but nothing else. It's very
um,
versatile, as I understand it.
yeah. Because I remember like the big digital film before this was like the 28 Days Later, which I was basically using off the shelf cameras that you literally could get at Best Buy, but they're still like 3 grand. But that movie looks like, I mean, it still looks like a professional movie because of the production, but like the look of it is still like, yeah, it's an amateur look. It's just like people shooting on handy cams. I mean, one time we should probably explore. I know there's probably other people doing it, but Soderbergh's experimental movies he does now is just shooting movies on iPhones.
Oh yeah, yeah,
which
I've heard of that.
which that's crazy because like those cameras on iPhones, they like a still picture looks amazing coming from an iPhone, so it's like probably can't be that far from like what can a video from an iPhone do, and which now with all these like uh uh drones and stuff like that, like if you have an iPhone and just some ambition, you can make some like crazy looking independent films if you were inclined as much to try to do that. So, but I feel like people don't do that anymore. Like there's more money in making like YouTube stunt stuff with that rather than trying to make like a scripted drama or whatever.
Yeah, it seems like with the memory capacity and some of the limitations, it's like yeah, it's tailor made for YouTube stunt stuff
Yeah.
versus like, well, we're just gonna shoot like on a set or something. We have what 15 of these phones and hope the data doesn't get corrupted transferring it over to the computer or something.
So yeah, the command module or ship or whatever crashes Black Hawk Down style, and then Kubis comes into the ship and grabs Wickus. So that's why I have being the end of Act 2. In Act 3, Christopher and Vicus are being taken away by the MNU, but they get ambushed by the Nigerian gang, which they basically have kind of like road warrior, like let's put cow catchers on the front of the car type stuff here.
On the front of the Toyota Jeep. Yeah.
The gang pull Wickus out of the vehicle, which like there's like one guy like teasing him from one side, and then there's just like somebody with an angle grinder on the other side just cutting through the door, and then eventually they get the door open, just pull him out the other way. Christopher watches from the other truck, which I think like everybody in the truck except him got killed, but the truck's kind of fine. Like there's like blood on the windshield, and there's nobody in it except Christopher. So
Yeah, it seems like something happened there. I think it got shot up.
yeah. The kid in the ship the kid's in the ship and he accesses like something from the mothership. Vicus is about to have his arm cut off again, and then an MNU support team rolls in to fight the Nigerians, which is like just helicopters rolling with some new fresh troops. Absandro says he wants to eat his arm to become like him, which again I don't know if that's just like so he can use the weapons. Does he think this will cure like his paralysis? I don't know. The kid does something to the mothership and it sends out like some kind of like blast wave. It looks and sounds really cool. So,
Yeah.
and now the kid's able to like remote control the robot that Epsanjo has in his gang's hideout, and so the robot kills like the whole gang. And it has like this one gun that's like gathering all the bullets, and it shoots all the bullets back at it. And then it just like shoots. I think it's supposed to be like a taser because if you go in slow motion, you can see like the wires attached to it. Like he shoots like a taser up Sanjo's head, and then just like his head grows and blows up, and it's very out of nowhere. So it's like, oh, that's the end of a villain. Okay, yeah. He died a villain's death, I guess, sudden and painfully. So, then we cut to Kubus wants to talk to Christopher. Because he's like, hey, because now everybody's like piqued up interest. Is like, why is the ship moving? It hasn't moved for almost 30 years. MNU are moving on Vicus. They throw in tear gas at him. Vicus hops in the mech, which this is like 2008 was Iron Man, so they're kind of doing their own version of that Iron Man vision of like they kind of have the camera in a black space with like holographic screens in front of them. Here's also the funny thing where like the headpiece just drills into your head, so it's
Yeah.
like, but here they play it off as for comedy. It's like it's weird. So, um, let's see here. So yeah, Vicus hops out in the mech. He runs outside. They stop firing at him, and then they start holding Christopher like hostage because also like these bullets don't seem to be doing anything to the mech, at least for the moment. But then Vicus runs off in the mech, and then Kubus is like, "Well, I'll say kill him if he doesn't have anything to say to us." And the one guy's about to kill Christopher, and that's when Vicus has a change of heart, and he runs back to fight the MNU guys. Vicus and Christopher run for the alien craft as the MNU team like fire. Oh yeah, like, I forgot that. Yeah, so yeah, he's able to like. He stops the one guy. He like cuts off his arm, and then the robot like steps on the arm and just like completely liquefies it. So
Yeah.
so it almost seems like extra cool because the guy just watches his arm completely disappear into the liquid. So, so he's able to get Christopher, and they make a run for the craft. Like Christopher like grabs like a car door, and then like Vicus is trying to use the mech to like block all the bullets he can. Vicus tells Christopher to go on without him, and so he stays and fights. The mothership starts hovering over the craft, and a tractor beam like locks onto it and starts pulling it up. So rather than the ship going to the motherships come to the command module. Vicus keeps taking out MNU soldiers, so now he's just like blowing people up with lightning weapons and hitting them with all different kinds of stuff. There's the shoulder rockets fire at one point, which I'm not sure if it kills anybody, if it blows a bunch of stuff up.
Well, no, they seem to fire in a random direction.
Yeah.
And they all like go up in the air, kind of like javelin style, and then they hit everyone that was firing at them. Because in the suit, you can see it's kind of cool. Vilcus gets like notified every time a bullet strikes the armor.
Yeah, it's like a ping on the the holographic layout and stuff like that. Then like Kubus tries to they kind of get some advantage on I think no not yet. They kind of get an advantage on the robot a little bit, and they knock it over for a moment. I think they take out like some kind of energy module for a moment, so he's like the robot's laying on the ground, then Kubus tries to fire a rocket at the craft as it's being picked up by the
well, they're using
beam.
an interesting gun, because I thought it was a Dashika, like a 12 millimeter Russian anti-material rifle.
Yeah.
No, it's its own. It's called a Mecham NT-20, made by the Denel Corporation, which is a government-owned South African weapons manufacturer. The reason it's interesting is because the ammunition it uses is based on the World War II German Focke-Wulf machine gun, the Maschinengewehr 151, which fires a 15 millimeter round at incredible velocity. Not a 50 caliber, because I thought it was like a 50 cal, or
like
which would be like,
or something like that.
Yeah, the Russian version of that, like that's what a Dashika is. It's like, no, this is even bigger, even harder than that. And it's like, oh wow. But it's a South African anti-material rifle, but it would be the most badass. It would be more powerful than a Barrett. It's interesting they pulled that out. It's like, oh wow.
Kubus tries to fire a rocket at the craft, and then Vicus is able to catch it, which it looks really cool. But then it kind of blows up that robot's hand. And then a truck rams into the robot and knocks it over. Like one of the MNU guys grabbed just like one of the Nigerian trucks and rammed it with the cow catcher. Then I think just Vicus blows him up with one of the lightning guns or whatever.
Yeah.
Vicus is hurt, but he's still trying to move around in the robot. Kubus hits it, and then this robot just stops, and it drops Vicus out of it. Even undrills from his head, and he just falls on the ground. And he's kind of like crawling around. The craft makes it back to the mothership. Vicus is crawling around. You can see more of him has changed because now his eyes like yellow and bigger. So that's like since he's been
He's like 50% prawn now.
yeah. Oh, yeah, I forget like when he gets in the ship and tries to fly it at first, he just like puts his hands in this weird like yellow liquid or whatever, and then the ship starts working. Or not. There's trivia that says that could just be a waste thing. Like, it's just pee. It's like
Yeah.
he didn't need to use that to fly the plane. It's like that weird vehicle in South Park where it's like, oh, you could just ride it normally, or you could engage in like the anal sex part of the machine.
Oh yeah, because who the sicko teacher invented it.
Mr. Garrison, yeah.
Mr. Garrison. It's like, oh yeah, you can just drive it with these steering wheels, or you can use a dildo in your butt. Okay. These guys are weird. Guys that make South Park are weird. Imagine.
Then Kubus holds a gun to his head and he's like, "I just love killing prawns." And then a bunch of prawns just come out of nowhere to Vicus's aides. Kubus fires a couple of times and like hits some prawns, but then he just gets surrounded and just one of the prawns just rips his head off, and then they just rip the rest of his body apart, and so he's gone.
Yeah, we're assuming they're eating him
yeah.
too.
Which that's how you kill the bad guys in this movie. You just rip their heads off or blow them up. Just go for a headshot. Christopher he's back on the mothership, or is he just, did he go into the mothership, or does he just still in like this command module thing, and that's how you fly the ship?
Well, the command module, if you pay attention in the beginning, there's a cutout in the main mothership.
Yeah, it looks exactly
the shape. So I'm assuming he docked with
okay.
that.
But I didn't know, like at this point, like is he like inside the ship to further control the ship, or is it just always controlled from this command module thing?
I'm assuming this is the command point on the ship.
Christopher puts
I'm working on prawn deep space, spaceships. I'm assuming.
Yeah. Christopher puts in the coordinates to go back home. The ship leaves Earth. There's some intercuts of the closing of the documentary. Like people are happy, like finally the ship's gone. And
it is cool when the ship moves, and just in its movement, it displaces enough air.
Yeah.
Like windows shatter all over Johannesburg. This actually would happen because the thing would be massive just sitting there.
But they don't pick up any other prawns. Like they're just down there still as the ship leaves. So.
Yeah, they're not. Again, they're not unified as a race or a people or whatever. They seem to kind of be leaderless and sort of independent.
Then we have like some of the documentarians or speculation on what happened to Vicus, because they show like this is the last time we saw him. We even see Vicus's replacement is like awaiting trial for uncovering MNU experiences and their experiments and their cover-ups, because he makes it seem like the reason Vicus was in this situation was to have him take the fall. So, then we see Tanya like found a trinket at her door, and like in the documentary, she talks about like all the little things that Vicus would make her, when he was human. But she said she found this at her door one day, and she thinks it's from prawn Vicus or whatever. And then just at the end, we have a shot of a prawn making a metal flower, which I believe we're supposed to think that has to be Vicus. So.
Well, it is because he has the injured hand still.
All right.
That's the one. That's the thing that carried through.
Okay.
So yeah.
And thus, that is the end of District 9. A good. I'm guessing this is an independent movie. I guess which is Peter Jackson put money on it, and it was who put this out? This is like Columbia or something like that. I don't know. But
production companies QED, Wingnut, and TriStar.
Okay.
Distributed by Sony.
Okay. Sony Columbia is Sony. So.
Yeah. And also sub-distributed by from Stir Kennaker of South Africa, which is like their film distribution thing.
I think this was successful. Did you look at how much this money this made? So.
Yeah, this movie was very successful because it came out of nowhere on a $30 million budget, and it says $10 million promotional. So let's say 40.
Okay.
It made $210 million.
Okay. All right. Yeah. But yeah, it's a cool movie for what it is. I don't think you could just like repeat the success of this movie. I don't think you could just make this movie and its type again. But
No, this is a one, and this is a very unique thing. Like I said, it looks like, and I don't know if it's because of how Vilkas is dressed in the beginning or whatever. It reminds me of an '80s movie.
yeah,
It has a lot of that kind of grit to it.
or maybe just South Africa's behind the times.
They're a little far away from everything. They're in the southern hemisphere, so
um, but yeah, there's like they do kind of use the documentary presentation as a crutch a lot of times, and sometimes it feels like they're just filling screen time. So that's where it's like it kind of feels amateurish and like independent movie making, like the worst of it. Like we
yeah.
just need to make this runtime, then we can put it in theaters. It's like that's not how you want to make a movie, but okay.
Well, I think a lot of effort was put into getting the prawns right,
Yeah,
doing human CGI interaction, having good action scenes, having gore, lots of gore. Like I said, biomechanical blood and guts is Neil Blomkamp's stock and trade. And then, like, yeah, characters that definitely have strong motivations and they're very literally transformative character throughout the movie, which was great, but also a lot of like details left vague
yeah,
because but done not because we're lazy or we don't know how to write a story or whatever, but because we have X amount of time to fill and we got to keep it moving along.
yeah.
It's like we can't have a 40-minute exposition about aliens. I might be interested in that, but most moviegoers are not going to want to do that. That's you do extended and deleted scenes later on the DVD release if you want to do that. Which I've heard there's different versions of the end of this movie,
Oh
which
yeah.
Neil Camp doesn't want to come out because it kind of changes things.
Yeah,
So this
yeah, they
was
made it sound like it was so embarrassing they won't talk about it, which like I mean, what do you mean? But then they made it sound like it was like some gross out thing, like or something, like
yeah.
oh, we had people naked and it was weird. So we erased it from history. It's like okay, like what were you trying to do? It's like we'll not talk about it.
Lucas was back with his wife as a prawn. They filmed the sex scene. Whoa.
um, while we're sending a probe into space, Canadian, the supercut that is part of the imperfect collection of the movies that make up the Verhoeven Effect. Nathan, what one scene from District 9 are we shoving into space?
When Vilkas goes to the hospital and goes through the weapons, what I call weapons training portion, shoots all the prawn guns because he has a prawn hand.
Oh, okay.
That establishes everything you need to know about what's going on in this movie and what the motivations are
Yeah.
and what you're in store for. Because remember, at one point in this movie, a pig gets thrown by a gravity weapon.
Oh, yeah.
Which is a great scene. Pig cannon. Very Half-Life 2.
Yeah, like when that happens, I was like, is that a mannequin or is that supposed to be a real pig? And I'm guessing it's supposed to be a real pig. So.
Yeah, CG pig.
I mean, they do have like cows and chickens, so yeah, they got all kinds of meat around there. So.
Oh yeah.
You can find us at Letterbox username VHE 1 out of 5 stars. What are we giving? District 9.
I'm going to give it 5
Okay.
because it is what it is and you're not disappointed. I mean, there's all kinds of questions you can ask. You can be curious about it, but essentially it's a satisfying package all in itself.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. I mean, you can always say, well, there could have been more. It's like, well, it was a $30 million movie made by a bunch of first-time movie guys. It was amazing for what it was. Yeah. It's kind of like, Halloween was a great horror movie because everyone just got together and it clicked up. And there's all kinds of problems you can find with it, but it's like really just look at it for what it is and how it was made. It's great.
Yeah.
And so that's my take.
And then you can find our show at verhoeveneffect.com. There we have listener support. You can support us on a monthly site on 99 cents, $4.99, or $9.99. Cancel anytime. You can rate our podcast where you want. Rate our podcast whatever rating you want. Remember, the algorithm only listens to the highest rating. Remember, you control the algorithm. The algorithm doesn't control you. So just give us the highest rating so we can confuse the AI.
Yeah, don't let our machine overlords ruin your 2-hour movie podcast that you must consume.
Actually, I heard like the dead internet starting to take hold because I guess like something like 47% of the internet's like AI generated at this point, and so the AI is starting to learn from itself, and it's starting to learn everything incorrectly, so it's making itself intentionally dumb. So, so
I love dead internet theory.
um, I guess I want to be completely dead internet theory. Dead internet theory would be like all the voices talking on Twitter are just AIs talking back to each other, right? So
Yeah. No, it's really, if you like follow it to its logical conclusion, it's like, well, this would be, it's a dystopian internet.
yeah.
And it would be like, what? Where are all the people? There's no engagement. I mean, I engage with the internet all the time. I mean, I watch things. This is the only thing I produce and put out, but I watch things all the time, and people are making things. It can't all be machines. Like if suddenly I went to YouTube and then like, hey Nathan, here's the history of that gun you were talking about on your podcast. I'd be like, okay, this is the dead internet. There clearly nobody just tailor made this because I was interested in this one kind of
and then
gun.
it's just Harry Potter with a gun that has like 4 magazines on it because it doesn't know how to draw a gun.
Yeah, and Harry Potter has 7 fingers, smoking a cigarette, which is also molecularly bonded to his lips. And as he turns into a dog, it's like, yeah, boy, they're really going to take over the world. This is obviously well thought out.
You can find us on Twitter at Verhoeven Effect. You can find us at Blue Sky Social at Verhoeven Effect. You can find us on Facebook at Verhoeven Effect. And you can find us on YouTube at American Greed Factory. We watch both this and that show live and unedited. So for the Verhoeven Effect podcast, I'm Conlon.
And I'm Nathan.
Goodbye.